Well, folks, Bill Maher used to be sort of a mainstream left-winger. Well, now the left has gone so crazy that he's just a center-right guy, apparently. As people on the Twitters are saying, he sounds like me. And that's not because I have moved. And it really isn't because Maher has moved. It's because everybody else who used to consider themselves on the left has moved so radically to the left that Maher got left behind. So here, for example, is Bill Maher speaking about woke culture, got ripped up for this. But of course, he's exactly right. Here he was.
You can be woke with all the nonsense that now implies, but don't say that somehow it's an extension of liberalism.
Right.
Because it's most often actually an undoing of liberalism. I have always believed, as liberals do, for example, in a colorblind society, that the goal is to not see race at all anywhere for any reason.
Yes.
That's what liberals always believed all the way through. Obama, going back, Kennedy, everybody, Martin Luther King. That's not what the woke believe. They believe race is first and foremost the thing you should always see everywhere, which I find interesting because that used to be the position of the Ku Klux Klan, that we see race first and foremost everywhere.
Yeah.
So, again, you can have that position, but don't say that's a liberal position. You're doing something very different.
Correct. He got ripped up for this. How dare he? Now, of course, he wasn't saying that BLM is doing the same sort of stuff as the Ku Klux Klan. He was saying the ideology that race is the great differentiator, and that's the first thing you should notice about a person. He's saying that's bad. Which, again, I thought, like, when I grew up, that was just what everybody got taught. I'm confused. Like, I grew up in the 90s. Isn't that long ago? And I remember I went to public school, and this was what you were taught. And it was considered a good thing. And now all of a sudden, it's the reverse. Maher also slammed Black Lives Matter, pointing out it's only certain Black lives that matter to BLM.
In Minnesota, for example, I think it was Minneapolis, after the George Floyd murder and the riots, I think there was a movement to disband a lot of the police, and they did. I think a lot of the police were let go, or somehow the police force was a lesser force than it was. And what happened was, of course, crime went up in certain areas, and a lot of the officers who had been fired or let go or quit, or for whatever reason they weren't on the force anymore, they were hired as private security. By who? The rich people who could afford to do it. So their neighborhood stayed safe. So that wasn't exactly, I thought, a victory for liberalism. Murders have been happening way out of control in Chicago among the African-American community for far too long, and not really reported in the way that they should be. It's amazing how black lives don't seem to matter when they're taken by black lives.
Right.
But I mean, now Chicago, my friends who live there say it's not safe anywhere.
Yeah, it's very sketchy. Very sketchy.
And that's Chicago.
Okay, see, he's saying reasonable things. The left is not. This is why, again, the first party that shows that it can be sane and rational is going to win broad swaths of the electorate. Like, Maher is speaking for pretty much everyone at this point on this. Like, left, right, like, if you're in reasonable categories, you agree with Bill Maher on this stuff. The left is ignoring it, and the right is too busy playing with itself over here on other issues that it's like, these are like right there for the picking. Just say the things. But apparently that would be too good for the United States right now. Okay, time for a quick thing that I hate. Okay, so apparently Austin police are now urging robbery victims not to call 911. That seems bad. According to Fox News, Austin police in Texas are asking residents to call 311 if they get robbed near an ATM, as the department struggles amid an increase in urban crime. 311 is a number usually used for non-emergency requests. 911 is like, I'm being robbed. 301 is like, yeah, somebody robbed me 3 hours ago. What can I do about that? So apparently they now don't want you to call 911, even if you're being robbed like right this second, because they're just overwhelmed. Austin Police Department wrote, quote, even if you're cautious and follow all safety advice, you may still become the unfortunate victim of a robbery. Do you know what your next steps should be? Make a police report. Provide as much information as possible so we can recover your property quickly and safely. Compared to 2020, Austin has now had a 77% increase in auto thefts, an 18% increase in aggravated assault, and a 30% increase in murder. So yeah, it turns out that left-wing governance, it has some serious bad cause. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.